The Flavin and the Mavin is the 4th episode of the 6th season of 2.5 Men. This is directed by James Widdoes, and as always, there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode and share some thoughts. And it's a really enjoyable episode. We have the introduction of Melissa, who I think is a pretty great character. I'll talk more about her in a moment. It starts off with Charlie and Alan in the car. Alan is being driven reluctantly by Charlie to work because his car is having some difficulties. Charlie's not very happy about this, but he goes into Alan's office to use the toilet, and when he's there, he meets Alan's receptionist. And this is, of course, Melissa. And Melissa is played by Kelly Stables. She's physically attractive. Needless to say, Charlie is very interested, much to Alan's frustration. And the next thing we see, they're back at the house and Alan is talking about the situation with Berta while Charlie and Melissa are out on the deck. And Charlie comes in and Alan's obviously not very happy about this, but Charlie says some convincing things and, you know, he wants to try and settle down. He wants to make this work. Maybe he'll spend time getting to know her before they sleep together. That didn't go according to plan. Cut to the next morning and Alan is clearly unhappy. He seems very tired. Melissa's really happy. It must be a strange situation to wake up in the morning, go into the kitchen, and then find your secretary there wearing not a lot of clothing. Alan's just done by this point, but Melissa seems really happy, and she even suggests that they can carpool now since she's there, and that kind of suggested that she's going to be staying for a little while longer. And she's happy, Alan isn't. Charlie's happy, Alan isn't. It's usually how things go. We then have a bit that I rather liked. We have quite a quick passage of time here. We're going over a course of a couple of days, and I think they handled that passage of time really well. Jake is then getting dropped off for the weekend, and Judith was obviously concerned when she realised that this was Melissa. She'd spoken to Melissa on the phone, obviously whenever she's phoned Alan's office, and Alan's response, reassuring her that it's Charlie that's doing Melissa, not him, I thought was very smooth and very well done. And Judith points out that she's not happy with this. It's not setting a good example for Jake. So Alan says to her, if you're not comfortable leaving him here for the weekend, you can take him home. And with just a split second of a pause, Judith responds, nice try, Alan. So she's not happy enough to make complaints about it, or she's not happy to the point that she's going to make complaints about it, but she's not so unhappy that she's willing to take Jake home, which honestly I feel like is usually the case with Judith. She will complain about things, but if the action she would need to take to resolve it inconveniences her, she's not going to take it further, which is very much in keeping with her character. And Jake actually has a very brief but very, I think, meaningful conversation with Alan about boundaries and how his Uncle Charlie's constantly breaking them. The scene refers back to Miss Pasternak and how this just seems to be a pattern with Charlie breaking down these boundaries. And it was quite a meaningful conversation. And then we have the following morning. We're nearly at the end of the episode, or it might be Monday morning by this point. Melissa and Charlie are having an argument because Charlie said the wrong things. Basically, Melissa was moving a lot more quickly than Charlie was, and Melissa ends up driving Alan to work very erratically. And it's very scary, very, very terrifying. And there we have the end of the episode, and that's our introduction to Melissa. Obviously, I won't say any more about the character going forward in case you haven't seen those episodes, but I'd say it was a very good introduction to the character. I think she's certainly a very interesting character, and we have some really great moments. Personal highlights would be, I guess, the moment Charlie saw Melissa, because I think it's very obvious how it was going to play out. The conversation between Alan and Judith, the conversation between Jake and Alan about boundaries, I thought that was very well done. And then just the way the final scene played out with Melissa and Alan in the car. Not a bad episode at all. I think that it's a really good episode of 2.5 Men. All things considered, The Flavin and the Mavin is really enjoyable and definitely a good introduction to the character of Melissa.